Let me pop you over to Cape Town. The Investing in Mining Indaba currently underway, specifically at the Cape Town International Convention Center. Minister Gwede Mantashe speaking there. Let's listen in.
They say that a leader knows the way, he then goes the way, and then after he's gone the way, he shows the way. The next speaker has definitely gone the way. He knows the way, and he continued to show us the way. It gives me great pleasure to invite to stage the Minister of Minerals and Petroleum Resources for the Republic of South Africa, Gwede Mantashe.
Thank you very much. I'm sitting next to Frans Barleni there. He says, when a speaker takes papers, it reflects his age. And I tried to interrogate him, Frans, what is my age? He couldn't tell me. I think he's deliberate about it. But he said, in the panel, there only says no letterhead hard copies. Thank you very much, Master of Ceremonies. I don't see the Mayor of Cape Town. Has he left? Has he left? Okay, it happens sometimes. Many important speakers just speak and leave and not take time to hear any other views different to his. That means he wants to hear his own voice. That's why. Members of the diplomatic corps, ministers and deputy ministers present, I have seen a number of ministers and a number of deputy ministers, all our international guests, all of them. There are so many. If I try to mention them by name, I won't be able to finish them. Deputy Minister of Mineral and Petroleum Resources, Phumzile Mgcina, Chairperson of the National House of Traditional Leaders and Khoisan Leaders, Ndade Siyatlolo, and provincial chairpersons. I appreciate it because it creates a new aspect to the Invest in African Mining Indaba. That is interaction between Western economic and management framework and indigenous leadership and wisdom. And I want to ask the traditional leaders, you know, sometimes when you're under pressure, we feel of the house here, you are very few who put pressure on you. It makes you comply with our Western traditions. But the value will derive from you is the indigenous leadership and wisdom. Let's feel it. Organizers of the 2025 Investing in Africa Mining Indaba, chairperson of that board here is Frans Barleni. He's my old colleague. For his sins, he is in this responsibility. He is still paying back the debt he owes us. Captains of the industry and members of the investment community, very important people for this Indaba, leadership of organized labor, civil society and communities. I was in a commission yesterday. We had representative of civil society, And I had my own suspicion about this man who is representing civil society, only to discover that he's representing civil society here, but he's from Britain. And that is the issue we must pay attention to, that NGOs make our life difficult in the continent. Now, all our distinguished guests present here and members of the media, it's a great sense of pleasure for me to once again welcome you to South Africa on the occasion of the 31st edition of Investing in African Mining Indaba. 31 is a very important number for us in South Africa because it is 31 years of the Investing in African Mining Indaba. It is 31 years of our freedom as South Africans. We're the second last born in the continent in terms of freedom, following a number of other countries. They were all free before us. We're second last. Only South Sudan comes after us. Convened under the theme, Future-Proofing African Mining Today. And I try to understand from Mr. Baleni, what is this future-proofing, Mr. Baleni? And he says it means young people must take over. Now, again, reflecting my age, I asked him, then what are you going to do about us? He had no answer for this. And what is important about this is coincides with the 70th anniversary of the Freedom Charter. The people of South Africa came together, drafted a document called the Freedom Charter. It is 70 years old. And it made a clarion call for us that the people shall share in the country's wealth. That is the call. And then Africa, as a continent, must deal with that issue, that Africans must share in the country's wealth in every country in the continent. It's an issue that we must pay attention to because rich in mineral resources, poor as communities. It's not a particular country that is poor. The whole of the continent is poor, but it is endowed with mineral resources, all the countries. Now, this gathering is precisely about having discussion about Africa's mineral wealth and her people sharing in it. And we must be honest in discussing this issue because if we are not, we are going to mislead one another and pretend to be something we are not. And to comprehend the magnitude of the mineral wealth that the people of South Africa ought to benefit from and share. In 2024, we undertook a study on the state of mining in South Africa. Let me explain why did we do this study. We did this study because many people were saying mining is in decline in South Africa. It used to be a great mining country. It is in decline. And we came back after the study and said to them, gold mining is in decline. Mining is on the rise. Very big contradiction. Because we're a major gold mining country, people equated mining to gold mining. When gold mining was in decline, everybody believed that mining is in decline. But more important there, we discovered that a number of minerals are growing. We're leading in a number of minerals that are required by today and the future. And that is quite important. We also conducted a study on critical minerals. Critical minerals. We were discussing with Africa whether we call it critical minerals. They call them green minerals. And I asked them, why do you call them green? And he said, green is because, I say, you see, sometimes when you do things fashionable, you miss the opportunity of broadening the base of your influence as a continent. because these minerals are more than just grain. They do many other things. And I said, we looked into 7 countries who define critical minerals in their own way, and we developed our organic definition of critical minerals. And ironically, on the list of minerals that are critical, they are not appearing in many other countries, except that they are re-emerging in Europe as a particular type of coal. But in our assessment, coal is one of the critical minerals because it is the second biggest employer in mining, after PGMs, and followed by gold. And therefore, on that part of employment and export earnings, it is a critical mineral. That's why the term critical mineral go beyond just green minerals. Contribution in the economy and the country. That is what we're looking at. And therefore, not only is South Africa a mining industry diversifying from gold mining era to a whole range of industry, but it also remains a bedrock of our economy, an attractive sector for new and greater investment. And the reason that we're giving you this feedback, we've done this study. We want investors to demand that study, so that when you want to come and invest in South Africa, you are not doing a trial and error. You know exactly where you want to invest, where is the wealth located, in which mineral, where is that mineral. And our ministry, we have a number of entities in that ministry, will be listening to you, will help you, it will guide you and advise you where to invest. Many investors come to us and say, we want to invest, and they say, we want to invest because we want to create jobs. And I stop them. I say, in South Africa, we have a program called Expanded Public Works Program. That program is for creating jobs. It doesn't create value. It does employ people to keep them going. And I said, no company is in EPWP. Every company wants to invest to make money. So don't tell me that you want to create jobs. You want to make money, and in the process of making money, you will employ people. Now, that is more honest and more open to us if you tell us that you want to make money. Don't tell us that you want to create jobs, because you may create jobs and make no money and you get liquidated as a company. What happens? What happens? You got the jobs, you don't make money, you get liquidated, so what? So let's be open and interact honestly with one another. And we are inviting you to come and invest in South Africa. Please do make your money, because if you make money, you will employ our people, you will meet all the obligations that we set up for you, including the social and labor plan. If you don't make money, you won't meet the obligation to build schools and build clinics in communities and invest socially in communities. You can only do that when you make money. Now, I'm making this point so that investors must not think that we're just wanting them to come here and do social programs. Want them to come here, make your money, but please meet your social obligations. Invest socially in communities so that you can coexist with communities. That is quite important for us. In 2021, gold mining declined. Actually, that sector still employs about 90,000 people. It is in decline, but it's still a big sector in our country. And we produced 96 tons of gold in 2023. So that size reflects the decline. But there is an aspect that we are not counting, the illicit trade of illegal mining, which is very prevalent in our society. Thank you to the police who are helping us fight illegal mining. And the only complication is that when there is a hard fight with illegal mining, South Africans come to the fore and say, on humanitarian grounds, a human rights issue, Please protect illegal miners, give them food, give them treatment, give that. And I always ask them, guys, you want us to be humanitarian in dealing with criminals. What are we going to do when we must deal with people who are genuine and contributing to the economy? And I'm talking to my colleagues in the cabinet. They all want us to be sympathetic, take them out, do this. And my own view is that if you take a voluntary step to go to a dangerous place, it can't be a humanitarian case. You have voluntarily entered a dangerous place, and the consequence of entering a dangerous place is that you get injured and sometimes die. So it's like committing suicide. Committing suicide can be a humanitarian case. And when they say illegal mining is falling under us, I say, no, that's not mining. Once you get into legal mining, your minister is the Minister of Police. Day one. It's not me. I'm not your minister. You're stealing gold. Your minister is the Minister of Police. Yeah, okay, that's it. PGMs reached the highest level in 2021. They produced 285 tons. Notwithstanding the decline of PGM basket price in 2023, South Africa was the largest producer of PGMs. So investors, PGMs is not fully explored. Come invest in PGMs. It's a very rich area of investment in South Africa. We are appealing to all of you. We are actually producing 73% of global PGM. And we're producing and supplying 38% of palladium, 81% of rhodium. That's what we are producing. So investors, that is an attractive investment area. Please come, have a discussion with us. We can tell you where to find it. I can tell you, standing here, Limpopo, Northwest, you'll get a lot of it. Those are platinum provinces in South Africa. And therefore, please do invest in it. Furthermore, there is evidence that the African continent has significant reserves of industrial important minerals, such as manganese. We are a great manganese producer. You can talk to us. Copper. If you talk to us, you want too much copper, we'll lead you to DRC and Zambia. They will give you, that is where the concentration of copper is. If you want coal, we'll give you coal. And coal, King Coal is back. There are many who wrote an obituary of coal prematurely. King Coal is back. I can tell you. It's nickel, cobalt, titanium, vanadium, lithium, rare earth elements. All those minerals are found in this continent. Please, investors, pursue them. Those are the minerals of the future. Those are the minerals of the future. Notwithstanding, with the growing demand of these minerals, Africa needs to assert its advantage and take charge of the growing demand. You know, I was listening to, I have ministers in my cabinet who always worry about geopolitics. Geopolitics. With this standing threat that, yeah, because you passed an Exploration Act, therefore Trump will withhold funding to South Africa. And I said, let's not mobilize Africa. Let's withhold minerals to US. That is it. If they don't give us money, let's not give them minerals. But the reality is they take our minerals, but say why we're withdrawing funding. No, we have minerals in the continent. And therefore we have something that we have. We're not just beggars, but we must just use that endowment for our benefit as a continent. But if as a continent we are frightened, we fear everything, we are going to collapse and will collapse with minerals at our doorstep. So my appeal is that Africa is the world's richest mining jurisdiction. And that issue is an issue that we must internalize as a continent, use it to our advantage. It's one of the things that we can use to to compete in the world. We can't be the poorest continent. And being the richest mining destination in possession of 90% of world chromium. You know, we produce a lot of chrome in South Africa. China builds its chrome industry on the back of our chromium, and they are bigger than us. That is unnatural. Because we export raw commodities, China stockpiles raw commodities, and we continue mining. At a point, as is the case currently, China just floods the market with chrome, and the price of chrome goes down. And our chrome mining companies say, we can't survive, we barely survive. But they're the biggest producers, and it is on their production that the price of chrome is suppressed by China. And I'm sharing this with my colleagues in the continent. It happens to all of us. This is what I call race to the bottom. A race to the bottom. We race with one another to the bottom by not taking advantage of what we have and actually become victims of what we have. We can't allow that to happen forever. Therefore, the notion of critical minerals lacks the consensus of definition. Instead of using a narrow definition and classification system of these minerals, MINTEC has adopted a methodology that is based on assessing critical minerals across primary criteria: export significance, local economy, economic significance, industrial importance, employment, global demands. This is informed by our firm view that critical minerals cannot be synonymous to energy transition. They must be given a broader definition because they are more critical than just energy. Now, instead, they must facilitate the development of sustainable objectives within the domestic industrial sector. The strategy is now near completion and slated for cabinet approval in our country by the end of this month, possibly. And for the benefit of delegates for this Indaba, we'll tomorrow unpack both the study of the state of mining in South Africa and the country's critical mineral strategy. We'll talk to colleagues because we don't think it's something that should be ours. We should share that and discuss with everybody else next to us so that we share the approach. It will not help me. I see my colleague from Angola here. What does it help for me to do something different? Angola does something different. That is where Africa becomes vulnerable. And we compete to different directions, but we belong together. But when you talk to Europe, for example, you never talk to a country in Europe. You talk to the EU because they've discovered the power of belonging together. We have not discovered that power. We move different directions, we take different positions, and we become vulnerable as a continent. Now, South Africa has approximately 37% of world manganese ore reserves. Northern Cape, it's a dry province, scattered. If you go there, there are more sheep than people. If you go to the Northern Cape, there are more sheep than people. It's a big province, very few people, towns far apart. When you have a short distance from one town to the next, you travel 70 kilometers. That is very close by. Now, we produce 37% of world manganese. It's there. And thereby securing its position in the pinnacle of manganese reserve rankings. And in tandem with the vast reserve, South Africa also leads in manganese production with about 7.2 million metric tons. And what we are looking at today is the question of local beneficiation. Does it make sense to export manganese raw commodity, or should we add value to it? There is more value in exporting manganese alloys than exporting manganese raw commodity. And we must invest in that, we must share that. If we don't have capacity, neighboring countries must talk to us and create that. Lesotho, for example, is our neighbor. Create the capacity to add value to a mineral that we have that you don't have. We share the responsibility, work together. Now, and for all this to be happening, we need reliable, consistent, and affordable electricity. Because if we can't have that, we're not going to beneficiate. You know, the one thing about business, I'm sharing this with my colleagues, sometimes they have this big unlimited faith in business. Now, I tell them, business do something, they do arithmetic and count. If it costs them less to export raw commodities because electricity is expensive, they will export raw commodities and rather pay whatever you want them to pay. If you want them to pay export tax, and they count if the export tax is less than the cost of electricity, they give you your export tax and export your raw commodity because it makes business sense. It's not a political decision, it's a business decision. And they export that raw commodity because it costs them less to export raw commodity than to pay your export tax. They give you export tax and export raw commodity and make more money. That is a business decision, it's not a political decision. Now, so the question of electricity is quite important on this. We therefore urge African leaders and investors across the continent also to promote beneficiation of minerals. Yesterday I did talk about Lobito Corridor. I said there are South African government that invest on the Lobito Corridor, but we have an interest in the Lobito Corridor, not to be just exporting raw commodities. It must be exporting processed goods from the African continent. We will not export there, but it must. So I want to come towards the end and emphasize the fact that the department and the PGM consortium are currently finalizing design and configuration phase, which is the heart of the new system of the mining license system. We have been struggling, we're close to completing it. Thank you to our colleague from Canada who worked with us on this issue. Thank you to Namibia and Botswana that shared experiences with us. We are completing that system, and that system is aimed at one thing: efficient licensing system. It must not talk ever for people to apply for a mining license. They must be able to press a button and be able to complete that. And that talks to two important issues that we've started. The exploration fund. We put the initial seed capital on it. We're inviting investors, do invite on that. I want to remind you, we are having a policy of black economic empowerment in South Africa. It's a necessary intervention, but for exploration, we don't do it. Now, people ask me, why don't you do it for exploration? I say, because exploration has no value. You're still looking for the quantity and the quality of the mineral. Will be kicking in at the point of production. When you're looking for the mineral, we don't want you to look for PEE partner. Do it, invest in it, discover the mineral, and then partner with us, because it is also imperative for us to take black South Africans out of poverty and involve them in economic activity. One day, when it is not a mining indaba, we'll take you the history of colonization and apartheid in South Africa. And when we do that, you will be shocked to understand that actually, I worked in the mines for 14 years. And I always tell Mr. Balen, I never had 14 years experience. I had 4 because I was not regarded as an employee, I was contracted for a year and go back home and take a new contract, come back. And that is the effect of apartheid and colonization. And one day, this thing also deals with that issue, including this province. That is where colonization entered this country. It was in the Western Cape, Portuguese, British, then the Dutch, and later French Huguenots. All colonized this province, and the British entered the Eastern Cape. And that history is so important to us to remember. And I'm sure all African countries can tell a story about that. Let me come close to the conclusion by emphasizing that mining is as good as its safety record. A safe workplace is a productive workplace. A dangerous workplace is less productive. We've been fighting with this thing, and we have a theme called zero harm in mining. That people must go underground and come back alive. We've been reducing fatalities in the sector over a number of years. This year we achieved the lowest number at 42 fatalities for the year 2024. That is the lowest number we've ever recorded. We're still striving. We're still striving to reduce it. We're improving from 49 fatalities in 2022, which was disrupted in 2023 to 55. We are at 42 this year. We're hoping to bring it to 0. So when you come and invest with us here, you open a mine. We'll help you open a mine. And once you open a mine, we'll say to you, can we discuss your zero harm program? Reduce fatalities, reduce diseases, reduce infection in the industry. We do that. It's a conscious program on our part. With this being the very first time that African economy will lead the G20, we are discussing with our colleagues to ensure that mining, critical minerals, artisanal mining, small-scale mining, and illegal mining, that is a work stream in preparation for G20. It's unique to us. We must ensure that it happens here. If it doesn't happen here, it will not happen anywhere else. We are hosting G20 for the first time on the African continent, and that G20 is not South African G20, it's the G20 for the African continent. Please contribute in shaping it and ensure that the output reflects the needs of the continent. Now, in that way, we can contribute in building the Africa we want. If we're working together, we're going to be able to work together and build the Africa we want. It's not the Africa I want, it's the Africa we want. Thank you very much. Welcome to South Africa. Enjoy yourself. And please enjoy the generosity of our people. Franz said, I always offer generosity of our people. He is also looking to generosity of your people. Thank you very much.
All right, so there you have it. Gwede Mantashe there, the Minerals and Petroleum Resources Minister, giving the keynote address at the Investing in Africa Mining Indaba, currently underway in Cape Town. He spent much of his address really honing in on the question of what we mean by critical minerals. It seems that's really what has captured his own imagination as he charts the way forward for this particular gathering. He's in some ways insinuated that this concept is being defined differently by different people for different interests. He's come out once again to bat for coal, saying king coal is back. In fact, those, he reckons, are the minerals of the future. In fact, he has gone on to mention that because of the mineral deposits that South Africa has specifically, but Africa more generally speaking, he sees the continent as not beggars on the continent, in the world, but as people who have something to offer because of those mineral deposits. He's spoken about 37% of the world's manganese being produced here in South Africa, more specifically in the Northern Cape. He's made mention of the Lobido Corridor, which of course is an incredibly important route that connects Southern Africa, the Democratic Republic of Congo, Northwestern Zambia, Angola, to the rest of the world, quite frankly. He also says mining is as good as its safety record, mentioning there, of course, that last year South Africa reduced the number of people who died in mining activity than the year before. Interesting comments, by the way, he made about illegal mining, suggesting that as far as he's concerned, the government should not respond to illegal miners in a humanitarian way. He says it's not a humanitarian case as far as he's concerned. If people go into dangerous circumstances, they should brace in some instances for being injured, if not for death itself. He didn't mention Stilfontein, but of course Stilfontein is top of mind for many of us who know that context. We'll continue to listen in to the rest of that particular mining Indaba. Very important gathering, given just how much of the GDP that South Africa has, mining contributes on a year-on-year basis. So stick around for our coverage on that front.